I just want to welcome you, Ashlie Rodriguez. It's Women's Month and we're honoring women.
Yeah.
And there's so many incredible examples. I mean, I look back in history, spending a long time in Michigan. Obviously, Rosa Parks is someone who immediately comes to my mind, to Amelia Earhart, to Ruth Bader Ginsburg, to my mom and my daughters. I mean, I wouldn't be here without my mom. So obviously, women have something to do with all of us.
Absolutely.
And there are so many great women in history, but I wanted to ask you, in your career, being a part of the morning show on Channel 7 and Good Morning Washington, has it gotten to the point where you can openly express your feelings about being a woman, or are there still, issues where you got to watch what you say?
It's
Go ahead.
It depends on the work environment. I will tell you, if you've ever seen Anchorman, that thing is truer to life than you'd probably imagine. I've worked in environments where it's a lot like that, but women have made leaps and bounds in the workplace for sure. And it's because of the people who came before us, who fought for us to be able to speak openly and be treated with the same kind of respect, try to go for the same positions. And then obviously there's still a struggle with equal pay, but we're getting closer every day.
So I look at you as a role model to young women who have an eye on broadcast TV. So I want to hear your backstory because you've been here for a little over a year, I guess.
A little over a year.
And I want to make sure everyone knows what you've gone through and how you've gotten to be in the position you're in, because from a broadcast standpoint, I mean, you have one of the top jobs in television, to be on a morning show in a top 10 market for a network on a major show like this. It's a big deal. And a lot of women, I'm sure, want your job. So just the backstory on how you got to where you are.
I'm so thankful to have this position because it is a big deal to me, especially. I fought tooth and nail for this. And I think more so than just being a woman, my struggle was my, economic upbringing. I didn't have all of the resources and opportunities that a lot of people have. And I remember going to Best Buy and buying the cheapest flip camera. That was back in the day before all these cell phones had awesome cameras, but I bought the cheapest camera I could get and the cheapest tripod, and I literally was in my grandma's backyard pretending like I was live on the scene somewhere just to make a resume tape. And I applied to every single job I could find. I would call news directors to see if they were looking for anybody, if they didn't have a listing on their website. So
Sure.
The first person who bit, because my tape was so ghetto, you know what I mean? I didn't have anything fancy, not even fancy mics. So I put together this tape, I submitted it everywhere, and the first person who bit was a news director in Great Falls, Montana.
Wow.
And I was so excited that I told him I would come up for the interview. Mind you, I was in San Diego at the time. And I was like, I'll be in the neighborhood. I'll be nearby Montana. Okay. He clearly knew that was probably a lie. I drove 22 hours just for the interview. That's how bad I wanted it.
Right. But it shows the dedication. And I think that's what employers are looking for. But there's something interesting that you said when you were describing this. You said he. So you're right away working in a male-dominated industry. And do you see that evolving? Are there more women in management positions in television and in programming and that sort of thing? Or does it still feel like it's weighed out by guys?
It's changing and it's getting more equal. And I look to Barbara Walters. She's somebody who's inspired me throughout the beginning, because when she was getting into news, men dominated it and they didn't even really take women seriously. Even when she got her first nightly news position in '76, the first female to be on the nightly news, they cared more about what she was wearing than what she had to say. So I think when it comes to women versus men, there's been perception that we've had to overcome. There's been some gender bias. We've had to overcome the fact that people trust men more. They trust the guy in the suit. And as a woman, you're like, you could trust me too. I have the same information. I have great sources as well. And just in my 10 years in the industry, I've seen a lot of changes. There's a lot of women in more high profile positions. In fact, the news director at the station, she's a female. and my first female news director in such a high position. So it's changing, it's getting better, but in news especially, because I can speak to it, women have had to overcome a lot.
I know it at firsthand. I've for quite a while was married to a female news anchor, so I've gotten to see some of the behind the scenes things that you have to deal with. One thing I want to ask you about, for a long time in television, there was called, the dominant position on the set. If you have two people sitting on a news set, it was always back in the day perceived that the guy was on the left-hand side, screen left, and a woman was placed on screen right. At least that's the way they did it in Detroit. And it was a big deal when a woman sat on the left side. Is that still something that's talked about? I mean, I know you research everything to find out what viewers are comfortable with and want. Is that still something?
That's really interesting, because I think that's still true to this day, that the man sits on the left. And again, it has to do with perception. I don't know why that is the perception that we've gone with this whole time. I worked in a newsroom once where the men got more words, more lines, more stories as an anchor. And there was a female anchor, and I looked up to her because while it seemed petty and annoying to the men in the newsroom, she would literally count the words, and she would show the producer, look how many more words you're giving him than me. And, I mean, it's a thorn in the producer's side, but what she's doing in that newsroom as a woman is she's saying, I deserve equal time on screen. His words, his delivery, his performance isn't more credible or better for the viewer than mine is. So yeah, totally.
It's amazing how many subliminal things happen too. So I'm just, I'm glad you need to sit in the left seat, I guess. Tell Robert he's got to move his butt over if that's
We'll do.
But it's fascinating. So Ashlie, let me ask you, is March the 8th something that you're aware of, or have you just started hearing about International Women's Day, or has it been something that you've known about from a younger age?
I've known about it, and it has a lot to do with women's rights. And, when you're a career woman, that stuff it matters to you, just because we wouldn't be here if it weren't for women in the early 1900s marching and fighting and demanding things. I mean, go ahead.
I was just going to say, think about the fact that less than 100 years ago, women had to fight for the right to vote. I mean, it's amazing. And we're younger. I'm older than you are, but both of us, I don't think have necessarily seen. We haven't lived through what the beginning of suffrage and all that's happened. Obviously, there's still a lot of hurdles and a lot of inequities that are going on through our lifetime too. But
there's gender bias, and I think the more we talk about it, the more we make people aware. Are they harder on female anchors or female news women versus the men? If she's having a bad hair day, is that all they're going to talk about? Versus what he looks like.
You don't hear about that with a guy, and a guy can wear on television. I hate to interrupt you. It's true. Guys can wear two suits, rotate a tie, and they look different. A woman has to find a different outfit, and she's put under a microscope.
Yeah.
In a different way. And I still think, is that happening to you? Because I perceive that.
I'm sure it is. It's not something that I dwell on, because again, if we want total equality, yes, we're going to have to fight a little bit harder for it. And I'm willing to take on that challenge, because the fight that I commit to right now is going to benefit my kids and their kids, to the point where we're not needing to talk about this, because we're just going to be considered humans. But I think we've made leaps and strides forward, just because now in my generation, people will ask, why don't you work? Right? Whereas back in the day it was, why are you working? Or, you shouldn't be working. Are you guys falling on hard times? But now it's expected that women are going to do something with their lives beyond just staying at home. So, we're making progress, but definitely my approach to it is, if I encounter biases in the workplace, I don't take it personal. I take it as a challenge, and it's only going to make me stronger and sharper. So be careful. You have an adversary coming at you.
I love that. So listen, you mentioned Barbara Walters, but are there any other female heroes or role models that you've imaged or really respected and followed or emulated?
Uh, yeah, there are. I'm a big history person, and I study a lot of women throughout history. And Cleopatra comes to mind because Cleopatra was so intelligent and so powerful for her time, but she also kept her femininity. And she's known as, you know, somebody who was very charming with the men, but she actually knew like 9 languages, and she immersed herself in like the native Egyptian tongue, one of the only Egyptian leaders to do so, so she could talk with the people and be a leader of the people. I like Harriet Tubman a lot. That was always one of my favorite women to study, just because she's such a badass. You know what I mean? She was going in the forest at night, and she taught me that yes, it's great to care about something, but you got to be about action. And she really lived what she believed in, to the point of being faced with life and death constantly. Frida Kahlo, she's another person I really look up to. Her story, because she got injured in a car accident. She broke her spine in multiple places. She should have died, but instead she took that tragedy and all that pain that it caused her throughout her life, and she made beautiful art. And she's just an inspiration, because whenever you feel like you want to give up, don't give up. Use that to propel yourself forward. You might like this one. I like Dolly Parton a lot. Dolly Parton's my girl.
I do. The thing that I love about her is her humility. There was just a story that brought her back in the news yesterday and the last week or so. They wanted to build or erect a statue in Nashville to her honor. And she said, you know, I'm not comfortable with that. Right now, we're going through a tough time. She's donated millions of dollars to Vanderbilt Health in Nashville. And she's just a genuinely nice and humble person. She comes from such, you know, meager background, as you described. I mean, she's fought her way to where she is. And, you know, she really took a lot. I mean, if you look at her movie career and everything that she accomplished, it's pretty incredible.
Yeah, you know, I look up to her because I think an area that I'm going to challenge myself in, and other areas that women should try to gravitate towards, is the financial world. And Dolly Parton she came from nothing. And yes, she's extremely talented in entertainment, but then she used that to invest.
Yep.
And if you just study women who have reinvested money, created businesses, and made generational wealth, it's inspiring. I think that's one area that women should be working towards. That's another challenge that we need to take on, is getting our women in lucrative industries like tech and the financial industries.
Absolutely. So you mentioned, you know, leading for young girls. You don't have any children yet, I don't believe, correct?
No children yet. And you know, that is a choice. That's another choice a lot of women have to make. God bless all the career women who do have children and can do both well. Right now, I'm just focused on the career, because where I'm at, that's the best way to ensure success right now. But that could change later.
You've got a lot on your plate. But if you could imagine in the future, you know, I've got 2 daughters I'm raising. Thinking about, you know, if you were to end up having daughters who would be as beautiful as you and as talented, what would you want, you know, to teach them? What would be a couple of the core values that you think, as a woman, you know, are important to hand on to our next generation?
Well, thank you, first of all. And I guess, you know, so something women have that men don't is like this self-doubt chatter in their head. I don't know if it's generationally instilled in us, but this kind of like, be quiet and hush and don't complain and just smile. And I would tell my daughters, you know, push that voice to the side. Ariana Huffington calls it the obnoxious roommate that you live with, where it's constantly telling you that you're not good enough. And I think women need to rise to the challenge of being outspoken. For some reason, when you get into a board meeting, a man's going to come in there and just feel very comfortable and confident for the most part, whereas women are going to be quiet. That's hurting us. And I would tell my little girls, you take on life and you be bold about it, and don't have any qualms about being the annoying one or the loud one. I think it's hurting us that women are too concerned about the perception. Just do you, girl.
I love that. I love that. So we've said a lot. We've learned a lot already in the last 20 minutes. I'm just trying to remember all this. So you got into television by just going for it. You had a dream. What was it that inspired you, though? I mean, to get to the point where, you know, you decided you were going to go get an inexpensive camera and put it up on a tripod in your grandmom's backyard. I remember I had the same drive as a 13-year-old. I wanted to be on the radio, and I listened to Casey Kasem and all that, and just I created a little radio station in my bedroom. And it's so ironic that all these years later, I've got a radio studio in my house. But what was it for you? Was there a particular person on television, or who made that light bulb go off in your head that said, "Hey, I want to do this"?
I think it was just journalism in general. I always wanted to like be the person asking the tough questions. I always admired those people in the movies and the TV show that would stand up in the court of law and say, this isn't right. And I wanted to fight for folks. But I think what really propelled me is I didn't have a backup plan. I don't have a trust fund, and I really needed a job. So I initially got into newspapers, and that's when newspapers were going bankrupt left and right. So I wasn't going to give up. And that's when I decided to go into TV. And even then, TV is not easy. The competition is fierce. The pressure is a lot. But I learned that, the passion I have to work on behalf of the public, it's still there. And when you have a passion, you're not going to give up easily. So for anyone out there who has a dream, don't give up and throw everything you have at it, because you only have one life to live. And that's kind of what happened with me is, it was either get a job in TV because I couldn't get a job in newspapers, or go back and live with my mom. And that was not an option. So.
Well, you have brought up a couple of the points that I hear from the most successful people. Have a plan A, but no plan B, because you're not going to say, well, if this doesn't work out, I'm going to try this. And then, you're wishy-washy. And you know what you want, and you go for it. And having that passion is something that I want to instill in my kids. And it's interesting. I have 4 kids, and it's so interesting to see that they're all incredibly different. And so many kids that are going into college right now don't necessarily even know what they want. They don't have that vision that you had or that I had. And so I wish for all young women and all young humans, to find what they love and spend time doing it. And I think you said that so well.
Yeah, I think the mantra should be, life is not easy. No one ever told you it was going to be easy. So don't kid yourself. And it's always going to be hard. So work hard, keep working hard. And I'm applying that every day too. It's not like I've made it. Okay. Life is still hard for me, especially over this past year.
Come on, you've made it. You're doing quite well. I mean, so in your position, do you look to the network next as your step, or is what you're doing, because when I got to a bigger city, I'm like, well, what do I do next? Because all along, you might have your eye on a particular market or a particular job, but where does Ashlie Rodriguez go from where you're at right now?
Well, now it's about being impactful. Okay, so I've gotten over the nerves. I'm not stuttering and forgetting what I'm supposed to say on live television, because I had to go through that too, where you're live on the scene and you just completely go blank and you're falling all over yourself. We've gotten past those hurdles. Now it's, let me use the skill set that I've acquired to actually impact people. So in the morning, if I'm waking up with you, I want you to care about your community, or, we're raising money for the food bank. There are more than 600,000 people who are dealing with food insecurity. Me just saying something without passion on the news isn't going to inspire change in the community. I want to have impact now. So now I'm focused on what is the best way to communicate how important different aspects of our community are to people, so that we can all get involved. I mean, it's our neighborhoods. We have to care. If I can inspire people to care, I'll be happy. But that's something I have to work towards every single day.
I feel like I'm talking to Harriet Tubman.
Oh, you're not.
No, but you've definitely got some of her attributes of wanting to help others and knowing that we've got a higher calling, because there's a reason we're here and we're blessed with the opportunity. So I just congratulate you on what you've done, and
same to you, sir.
I'm glad
Same
we could talk.
you.
I'm glad we could talk about International Women's Day. Are there any, who are the women out there now that you that you see as the next level of people coming up? Are they news anchors? There was a woman that I just found out about, and I don't know if you've heard her story yet, but Haley Arsenau is 29 years old. Listen to this. When she was 10, she was diagnosed with bone cancer. She successfully beat the cancer and has gone on to become a physician's assistant at St. Jude Children's Research Hospital, which we work with a lot. I think that's amazing. And that's nothing. That pales in comparison to finding out a couple of weeks ago that she is going to be the youngest human being ever to be launched into space on SpaceX later this year, 29 years old.
That's incredible.
And so, I mean, she's for women, for humans, for cancer survivors, for, physician's assistants, for going for your dream. I say, amen. I hope we have a billion more Haley Arsenaus because she's incredible.
No, the stories that we've covered over the past year are so inspiring, and I'm just excited for this new generation of kids. I think you could call them Gen Zers, Gen A'ers, the really young ones.
Right.
Because they have incredible tools at their disposal like the internet and social media. We have reported on so many different kids starting charities and sewing masks and making their cause go viral and getting more, support through GoFundMe's. And we saw that a lot at the beginning of the pandemic, where kids coming together to help out the healthcare workers and kids coming to help out the homeless. And it's incredible to see this younger generation that is so politically minded and active, especially with the Black Lives Matter movement that we saw take place. So many different young people coming together and knowing who their council members were and congressmen were. And it's just incredible to see how informed and active they are and excited to get involved.
Well, keep preaching it. I love what you're doing. And Ashlie Rodriguez, I guess it's okay to say Happy International Women's Day.
Yes, Happy International Women's Day, and thank you to all the women out there who have paved the way for women like me. I really appreciate you, and thank you, Mom.
Keep it up.